Welcome to the Insurance Matters Podcast, a program produced by the South Carolina Department of Insurance, where we talk about the latest news in the insurance industry. In 2014, a massive data breach occurred within several major health insurance companies.
Overall, almost a third of the citizens of this country, at least 130 million citizens, had their information compromised.
That's Ray Farmer, Director of the South Carolina Department of Insurance. He's been bringing data security to the forefront of conversations.
That means there was 130 million insureds of those three companies. The bad actors could have accessed their personal identifiable health information.
And he hopes a new law will help shrink the playing field for hackers who would attack the insurance industry in South Carolina.
The insurance industry is no different than the credit card, the banking, the retail industry, and that it is a target for bad actors. Probably more so because of the valuable health information that some companies have within their system.
The 2014 data breach impacted 1/3 of American citizens. And the people who were responsible for the attack? What happened to them?
The federal government has extensive assets to look at cyber crimes, and they do that, and they do it well. I believe they probably identified an entity or a country that this might have occurred from, but that was not made public, and no one has been arrested for that.
And that's the issue with these attacks. They can happen from IP addresses anywhere in the world, so convictions are near impossible. As with any major event, the silver lining was the lessons learned. That lesson was that there wasn't enough protections in place to support companies and consumers from being victims of data hacks. In fact, there is no federal law guiding companies on how to safely store consumers' information. Up until now, companies have had no real requirement to provide a contingency plan for a data breach.
This is an expensive undertaking, but the information that they house within their system is extremely valuable. Not only to us as consumers, when we give our information to our insurance companies, we need to be able to trust that insurance companies are going to do everything humanly possible to keep that information protected.
In 2016, Director Farmer chaired a task force by the National Association of Insurance Commissioners aimed at closing the gap in security around insurance data.
I felt it necessary, absolutely necessary, that South Carolina be the first state in the country to have the bill introduced and then passed. And we did that. And our legislature could not have been more cooperative and understood the need for us to have additional protection for our insurance consumers. And then Governor McMaster actually held a signing ceremony. He thought this was that important as well, that South Carolina is doing everything possible to protect their insurance-related data.
The new data security law went into effect in January 2019.
The law requires companies to do a number of things. They have to develop a cybersecurity plan, have to be able to show how their IT people defend their IT system from cyber attack. They have to have a cybersecurity officer or someone in that company that is solely responsible for cyber security. Reports have to be made to the board periodically of how the company is doing on maintaining that cyber security. The statute also requires companies, when they do suffer a breach, to report to the regulator within 72 hours. At that point, it's been my experience and those things that have happened that the regulator becomes a partner with the company to further protect the consumer and get information out to the consumer as fast as possible.
Hackers are always learning, always finding new ways to crack the codes.
Unfortunately, we've seen that hackers and bad actors are pretty smart.
The goal is to be as prepared as one can be and try to mitigate the damage just as quickly as possible.
Trying to stay 2 steps ahead of bad actors is a challenge. Insurance regulators, whether appointed or elected, have a strong duty, to make sure the insurance industry protects their consumers' information. Someone's personal information is extremely valuable. Every consumer needs to take steps to make sure their data is protected on their home computers and should be careful of what entity they give the information to. So I would encourage every state to consider adopting the NAIC model, and as it goes through their legislature, make sure it stays as close to the model as possible. But in the end, the objective of any legislation is to make sure the consumer's information is protected.
And now, other states are coming through with their own versions of the NAIC's model law.
It is my understanding that the Michigan statute is not as extensive and intensive as the model or the South Carolina statute. It is possible that the Michigan statute exempts the bulk of the health insurance industry, saying that they may be under other statutes or not, maybe HIPAA. I find no comfort in that, and I would encourage other states not to go down that path that was strongly pursued by the insurance industry, mainly by the health insurance lobby itself. The very segment of the insurance industry that caused consternation among consumers has gone in and had themselves exempted from some of the statutes.
Moving to protect consumer and company information before a federal mandate is handed down allows the states to have more control over the requirements.
After the NAIC adopted the data security model, the U.S. Treasury Department had just concluded their annual insurance report and commended the NAIC and the states for adopting the model and encouraged all states to adopt something similar within 5 years, or the feds would strongly consider adopting their own legislation, which would encompass the insurance industry and take the matter out of state regulation.
While data breaches aren't new, the scale of the breaches and the skill of the hackers is ever increasing, which makes the game of keeping data safe and secure nothing short of tricky.
I guess the ultimate goal here would be that eventually there would be no more need for data security, that our systems would be so far advanced that we were actually ahead of the hackers. That's probably a dream, and it's a worthy goal, but it's probably a dream. So every company, every consumer needs to be aware of hackers that are out there, and every piece of data and should be protected either at home or when it is given to an entity, especially the insurance industry.
The International Data Corporation predicts that by 2020, more than 1.5 billion people, or roughly 1/4 of the world's population, will be impacted by a data breach.
So as far back as Adam and Eve, there's been bad actors on this earth. And as long as there is an earth, there will continue to be bad actors. And cybersecurity is no different from any other opportunity for a bad actor to gain information, to steal information from innocent consumers. Everyone should be taking precautions and doing the best they can to stay ahead of the curve.
For more information on the data security law, please visit our website at doi.sc.gov. If you enjoyed today's podcast, hit that subscribe button. And as always, we would love for you to follow us on all things social media. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Insurance Matters.